Hey everybody, Josh Sigurdson, World Alternative Media here, and we are joined by Patrick Donnelly, Director of Harvest Gold, a man who, you guessed it, knows a thing or two about gold. And you know how much we love gold here at WAM, as it has historically been one of the most important forms of wealth insurance. So anyway, thank you for joining us, sir.
Thank you for having me on.
Absolutely. So after seeing gold skyrocket between 2002 to 2012, from nearly $200 an ounce to around $2,000 an ounce, over the past 6 years, we've kind of been sitting still waiting for the next rally. We can blame a lot of the bearishness on market manipulation, of course, but we've seen a few glimmers of hope over the past couple years, and in 2016 and even earlier this year. Either way, the signals keep turning bearish. So I was wondering what your thoughts are on this recurring trend.
Well, thank you for having me on. And yeah, it's a little bit perplexing, but I think what we've been seeing is we're starting to see a lot of global headwinds come our way. Specifically, we're seeing trade wars between the U.S. and China and Canada and other countries, and we're seeing some of the emerging markets really having a tough time, specifically Turkey, Argentina, South Africa. And yet everybody's flocking, right now to the US dollar as a safe haven. And, I've seen this pattern before. I remember in the late 1990s when I was a young geologist, gold was at $230 an ounce. And I remember seeing a story in The Economist that said, is gold dead? And is the US dollar the new store of value? And what happened in 2008, and we're still seeing it now, where the whole planet is loaded up on debt, and the whole global economy is loaded up on debt. And at some point, that's all going to come home. And the United States is no exception. Not just debt, but I think what a lot of people don't realize is the billions of dollars in unfunded pension liabilities that the U.S. has, in addition to state and federal debt. And we're seeing the Fed increase rates. So I think we've seen the worst with gold. We've also seen other asset categories that people have been using to store value. One of them would be cryptocurrencies. I think we're starting to see the end of that coming along now. I think people are starting to realize that it's really just smoke and mirrors. Gold is the true historical, long-term store of value. And it's been going on for thousands of years, and it'll continue to go on. And so, like I said, we're seeing a lot of inflation globally. We're seeing debasing of currencies, and I think what we saw in 2008 could be a harbinger for more global financial problems. And we're seeing, right now we're seeing Europe disintegrate, and we're seeing, again, emerging markets having problems. And China is also built on a lot of debt, and everything, all the economic growth there is all predicated on debt. So it's all going to come home eventually, and that's going to be good for gold.
Yeah, well, every single fiat currency throughout history has reverted to zero eventually. I think there's a lot to be said about, having a diversity of different forms of wealth in your portfolio, but gold has historically always been the greatest form of wealth insurance. It always has been for thousands of years. And you mentioned pensions and the unfunded liabilities. I mean, something I like to bring to our viewers as much as possible here at WAM is that it's estimated at around $400 trillion shortfall worldwide by the year 2050. I mean, that's unthinkable. I mean, there's no way to, there's nothing one can possibly do about that, alongside the fact that there is a multi-quadrillion dollar derivatives bubble worldwide. So it's definitely an issue that a lot of people need to start looking to ways to preserve their wealth when it comes down to it. And what do you believe are the most important components of where gold gets its value from?
Well, it's funny, I'm a geologist, but I also have a finance background. I did an MBA, and one of the first things I learned in my MBA was that markets are rational. And what I've learned, from being an analyst and being a market participant, is markets are irrational. and highly irrational. For example, you look at a lot of these tech stocks that are trading at ridiculous multiples. So, getting to your question, where does gold get its support? It's sentiment, and it's public sentiment, it's market sentiment. And at some point, people are going to keep putting. They're going to realize they're putting all their money in these inflated asset classes, and they're going to realize, holy cow, I'm really just debasing myself. I'm overpaying. And so I think that's going to turn around and start moving into gold. I think the second thing is we're starting to see a scarcity of gold. We've seen, I think we've reached peak gold production. Gold assets are getting much more difficult to discover and develop. And so, we're seeing a growing planet, and yet there's not as much gold being produced. So, the demand for gold is also increasing. You're also seeing countries move away from being dependent on the US dollar. China, Russia, and then some of these other regimes like Iran and North Korea use gold to trade, unfortunately. So, again, moving away from the US dollar, where else are you going to go? You're going to go to the euro? Euro is right now imploding as we speak. Are they going to use the Chinese yuan? No way, because they manipulate it, and it's going to be debased in itself. So, there's not many, no major liquid global currencies that market participants can go to, and therefore that supports the case for gold. And gold, like I said, like we both just said, gold's been around for thousands of years. It's liquid, it's tradable, and people know what it is, as opposed to cryptocurrencies. What is cryptocurrencies? It's all based in the computers in the internet space, right?
Well, I think it has a lot to do with the fundamentals of the individual currency. I'd say that I would agree that most cryptocurrencies are pretty terrible, considering the fact that most of them are based on nothing. But like with the .com bubble that we saw in 2001, it didn't end the internet. It just was the end to a whole bunch of terrible websites and .com companies that people put their savings into without understanding it at all. And I mean, with gold, and especially gold, the scarcity, application use, demand, it has proven itself for so long to be such a worthy thing to ensure your wealth with that it's basically always worked. And we've seen countries like Venezuela, they're running out of gold by the year or by about April 2019, I do believe. And Canada has sold off all their gold, but Russia is doubling its mining in the next 2 years, according to the Kremlin anyway. So, I mean, there seems to be a massive power shift, and I think it's important that individuals do what the bankers are doing, do what the government officials are doing. They might know something that we don't, but always, look towards these insurances, because when everything comes down, I mean, people are going to be lucky to have gold or silver, especially. So I wanted to ask you about something that I'm very much interested in hearing about, and that is Harvest Gold. Can you tell our viewers what Harvest Gold is?
Sure. I became aware of I'm a director of Harvest Gold, and I just joined the board just a couple of months ago. And what I like about Harvest Gold is, as I mentioned before, I'm an ex-geologist. Well, I'm a geologist. I'm an ex-mining analyst. I used to cover stocks. And one thing I've learned is, if you really want to get some bang for the buck in mining equities, it's the juniors. And what I really like, when I look at equities, if I put my analyst hat back on, the one thing I look at is people. And Harvest Gold is a partnership with a company called Evrim Resources. And Evrim is, about $100 million market cap. And they're led by a person named Alain Charret. And Mr. Charret is one of the most well-known people in the mining industry. He's had tremendous success in discovering world-class gold deposits. And so he leads the Evrim technical team, and we have a partnership with them. And so the property we're earning into an 80% interest in the Cerro Cascaron project in Mexico. And Mexico is a very good jurisdiction for mining. And Mr. Charret discovered this property and thinks very, very highly of it. Cerro Cascaron's got numerous showings. There's gold mineralization everywhere. It's never been drilled. And it's right in the heart of the Mexican Silver Belt. and it's actually surrounded by some world-class gold mines. Some of them were discovered by Mr. Charest. So he's leading this his team there. We earn 80% interest by cutting a check to Evrim. They do the work. They have the technical people. They got Mr. Charest, and they're going to go out in a couple of weeks and start drilling. So I'm very, very excited about that. We're a penny stock. This company's only worth $7-8 million. So it's an opportunity to get in the ground floor, because if these guys hit something, this thing's going to run. It's going to run really strong. Again, it's risky, it's speculative, but that being said, I like these stories. And if we hit something, the gold market won't affect it, because these juniors, when they make a brand new grassroots discovery, tend to run regardless of where the markets are right now. So
yeah, that was actually my next question was, is the success of the company dependent on a higher gold price? Can you go into that a bit more?
Yeah, it's not, because we're only a penny stock.
Yeah.
It's based on discovery. It's based on how many ounces we can add. And I'll give you an example. There's another company called Garibaldi Resources, and they made nickel discovery in British Columbia. And nickel prices are awful right now, and yet they made a discovery, and their share price just went on a tear. And they're trading right now at they're over a $200 million market cap company before they were nothing, because they made this great discovery in a really poor nickel market. And so in our case, if you make a discovery, it's irrelevant what the gold price is. And so that's what we're trying to do here. And again, like I said, this company, none of us nobody in the management team makes any money. Nobody has a salary, and we own 10% of the shares, and we're doing this to make a discovery. We're not here to pay ourselves hundreds of thousands of dollars in salary. None of us get that. We put our skin into the game, and we're moving this thing forward with our partner, Evrim.
Yeah, absolutely. And of course, being able to look to mining companies and stuff like that, it's a better way, in my opinion, for when it comes to investing in something like gold. Of course, gold and silver, like I mentioned earlier on, is heavily based on being able to preserve your purchasing power against crashes, against calamities throughout time, and it's a great form of currency when such a thing goes down, and hopefully thereafter. But it is interesting to look at it from the viewpoint of mining companies, etc. And I wanted to ask, what is your plan at Harvest Gold as we close out 2018 and move into 2019? Because a lot of people have no idea where this market's going to go next.
Well, we just raised a little bit of money, and it was difficult, but we raised it, and we've approved a 3,000 meter drilling budget, and the drilling is going to start within the next couple of weeks. So we expect through the rest of this year we're going to have some drilling results. And like I said, there's significant amount of gold silver mineralization at surface, and we're very excited about that. So right now it's a good time to get into the ground floor. Because in the next few months, we're going to have some drilling results. I'm very excited to see what we get.
Absolutely. So can you tell us about the professional background of your team?
Absolutely. The president and CEO of Harvest Gold is a gentleman named Rick Mark. And Rick's actually got a pretty track record in his own right. He founded a company called VMS Ventures. And they made a discovery in the Flin Flon belt of northern Manitoba. And the
that's where we are up here in Manitoba, actually.
Sorry?
We're actually based up here in Manitoba, so it's interesting to hear.
Oh, okay. Well, Manitoba is a great jurisdiction. You got the Thompson Nickel Belt, and then you have the Flin Flon Copper Zinc Gold Belt. And companies been founded in the Flin Flon Belt. And VMS Ventures, led by Rick Mark, made a discovery at Reed Lake, and they ended up selling it. And they did this. They were a penny stock worth nothing, and this thing ran up to a couple $100 million. So Rick's done this before. He found another company called North American Nickel, made a nickel discovery in Greenland, and that's moving along. So Rick, he's done this before. He's a pro. And like I said before, we're a lean team. Rick's kind of a one-man show, and I'm on the board of directors, but I roll up the sleeves quite often and help Rick out. My background, like I said, I'm a geologist. I'm also a former mining analyst, and now I'm back in the mining sector working for a junior called Trilogy Metals, TMQ. which has a world-class copper asset in Alaska that we're moving towards development with our partner South 32, which is one of the largest mining companies in the world. So I'll put the plug in there for Trilogy. That being said, getting back to harvest, we got Evrim, who they're a fantastic partner. They're $100 million company that made a discovery just recently, and a couple other projects. And again, led by Alain Charret, who's a rock star. I mean, one thing I've learned when I was an analyst is you always bet on the jockey. And when I saw that Alain Charret had rolled up the sleeves and was leading the charge on Cerro Cascaron on behalf of us, I got very, very excited. And that's why I joined this team.
Absolutely. So in close, can you tell or sell our audience on this? Why should they get involved in Harvest Gold?
Well, there's three things you got to look at. You got to look at people. And, like I said, a few minutes ago, I always bet on the jockey. And, the team in Evrim has done a fantastic job. They created a tremendous amount of wealth for their shareholders, and they're technically very, very astute. The other reason is the Cerro Cascaron project is in Chihuahua, Mexico. It's in the heart of the Mexican silver belt, and it's never been drilled. So, in terms of prospectivity, it's very, very high. There's numerous showings in the area, lots of smoke, and when there's smoke, there's fire. And so I really like the property a lot. And then most importantly, we're highly undervalued. We're trading at 7-8 cents. We're like a $5 or $6 million company. If we start getting some positive results, it's going to move the stock pretty quickly. This story, if you buy a conventional producing mining company, you might make 10, 20% on your return on investment. With the junior like Harvest, yes, it's risky. But that being said, you can make a substantial return on your investment by investing in a company like this.
Absolutely. Well, it's a much better idea than getting into a bunch of crazy ETFs or something like that. This is a very interesting idea, sir. And I wanted you to tell people where they can find more information on Harvest Gold and get involved.
Yeah, the website is www.harvestgoldcorp.com. And there's all the information you need there to learn about the company.
Absolutely. Well, thank you very much for joining us, sir. And I hope everyone checks this out. Go to their website, harvestgoldcorp.com, and there's a lot of information. I checked it before doing this interview, and it's loaded with answers to a lot of questions that you might have. So make sure to check that out and check into this company, and we'll follow up in a later report on all this. So thank you very much for joining us today.
Thank you.
Like what you see here, OM? Don't forget to check the links below. GoFundMe, Patreon. We can't do it without you. Any donation is very much appreciated, especially as we are so overwhelmingly demonetized by YouTube as they bring in the ADL to flag all of our content as hate speech. Also check our Bitcoin address in the description as well as on the screen for you to scan if you please. And also check us out at Steemit at Josh Sigurdson, the future of social media, where you get paid in the upvote of your post in cryptocurrency, Steem that is. So don't forget to check us out there and find us at Anarchapulco 2019. I know it's early, but this is such an exciting event coming up with Ron Paul, Judge Napolitano, David Icke, Larkin Rose, Jeff Berwick, all the usual characters, and it's going to be amazing. So we hope to see you there. Make sure to check the link for Anarchapulco below and use promo code WHAM to save as much as 15% on your tickets. We hope to see you there. But until next time, this is Josh Sigurdson signing out from World Alternative Media. Find the truth, be the change.
I'm sure you have already changed people's minds in your young age because you're involved, and I like that. you.